What's up, it's 12 and I'm here with Respect the Vibe. What's going on? I'm 12 and I'm from Miami, Florida. I'm an R&B musician and a top creative here in Florida. Growing up here in Miami, growing up in Carrot City specifically, it was cool, you feel me? It was fun being outside, going to the Candy Lady, just being legit, you feel me? Like it was lit. Like actually, growing up without technology and without social media in your hands and being forced to be outside, that was a different time, you feel me? So like for me growing up with me and my homies, what we used to do was just hop on our bikes and just ride, ride our bikes to other niggas' neighborhoods, you feel me? Start fights with other niggas just to do it, you feel me? Playing football, playing against each other, friendly competition. It wasn't until later when I got into music and got into the arts, that was because of one of my high school teachers. She put me on to, her name was Miss Melly, and she introduced me to Winwood back in 2011, and that was before Winwood was Winwood, before Winwood was the Winwood that we know today. It was still like heavily preserved within like the arts, and when she put me on to that, and growing up in Carrot City or growing up in Miami period, you could grow up in one part of the city and not know the other side at all, not knowing what the other side got to even offer, so her exposing me to like Lil Haiti back then and exposing me to Winwood, I was just like, yo, damn, this shit exists. You feel me? Like, why can't I have this kind of life? Or why can't I do these type of things? And, I kind of just took the initiative of actually stepping out of my box and my comfort zone in Carrot City and actually like engaging in other things, because like I said, like where I'm from is not that niggas is thick-headed. It's just we don't be exposed to too much shit. You feel me? Like, I just utilized the skills that I learned from the streets and I applied it, in these other worlds of where people like us can really grow. You feel me? And expand and influence and monetize our flesh. You feel me? Ourselves without nobody in between. But growing up here in Miami, man, it was something different. I feel like if you can make something or create a foundation for yourself here in Miami, in Carrot City, in Florida in general, you can do that shit. You can make it anywhere if you can solidify a foundation here, because it's tough. Even like still now, I don't feel like it's too many opportunities. I feel like you gotta make your opportunity. Like coming up in that time, like I looked up to like artists like Briscoe, you feel me, Iceberg, Billy Blue, Flo Rida, Rick Ross. Before them, they looked up to niggas like JT Money, you feel me, Uncle Lou, Poison Clan again, that's JT Money, Mr. Flim Flam, a bunch of niggas from Motor Grove and Carrot City. And I'm pretty sure down south had their influences too, but growing up in that time, it was something special, you feel me? I don't want to say it was hard. It would be, I ain't gonna lie, growing up back then, if the new kids today had to grow up back then, it'd be harder for them. Because back then, like, you was forced to have to be outside. I'm still young, I'm still in between. I'm in between the realms before technology actually took over. Like, my generation had that choice. That 25 and up had the choice of actually, like, being consumed by it or not. And I got a good understanding of both. But, it really was physical. Like, it was physical. You had to be outside. Like, you had to be outside. Not fake outside, like, not being outside briefly, pulling out your phone, taking a picture. No, you had to be outside engaging, like socializing. You feel me? Like, really communicating and talking to people and connecting with people. So, that's, for me, I love that. I love that time period. It was cool. Like, I feel like it hasn't changed. I feel like a new tool has implemented itself now, where you can like grow without actually having to move your body as much, but you still got to move your body. You still got to get on those flights. You still have to make those connections in those cities. Music started for me, I say 2007 is when I started entertaining it. Like I was, leaving middle school, MySpace just started jumping. And MySpace was definitely a dope platform at the time because it was an interface that was designed for you to upload your own content. Like you was able to upload your music to your page directly, code your own website, and yeah, like I mean, all of the big homies, you know, I grew up admiring because they was in my neighborhood. Like again, like Flo Rida, like blocks down from me, Rick Ross, blocks down from me, Po Boy. The actual label itself in that first recording studio was literally one block behind my house. So me and all of the kids just go over there and literally just play in their front yard before the big homies come and kick us out. You feel me? Like Freezy, E-Class, you know, that these legends, like them boys come in, man, take your ass home, man. Da, 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 da. You feel me? Like y'all some badass jits, you know, like, and you know, like seeing all of the talent that was coming in and out of they shit, you know, like seeing Trina coming in and out. You know, like again, like we kids, like we 7, 8 years old. So like that shit was dope as fuck. You feel me? And my big brother was well respected in my neighborhood. So everybody looked at me like, oh, that's Max's little brother. So like they actually entertained whatever it was that I had to say. So like they already knew like that was something that I was always interested in. But going into like high school, you know, another big homie of mine, you feel me? His name was Pearl. He was signed to MMG, signed to Ross. He was one of the first artists over there, Triple C's and Deuce Pound. He put me in my first studio session. You feel me? He had a studio set up in his crib. And he was like, they called me V12 growing up. They was like, yo, V12, they had a hit on my brother. Was like, yo, drop V12 over here. They brought me over. And then my cousin wrote me my first rap. And then Pearl, that was his name Pearl. He had put me in the studio and I recorded my first rap. It was very vulgar, a whole lot of curse words. It was terrible. Like, it was a great verse, I ain't gonna lie, but not for no, what, I was probably like 11-year-old at that time. And then I didn't do music after that. They was just like, yo, back then they used to say I was too fast for my age. Like I thought I was older than what I was. And I didn't get back into the studio until a little bit later, going into high school. And that's when I really started fucking with it. And I didn't start taking myself serious though until like 2016. Like I released a record called Stardust and it started picking up. And at that time, you know, you had Puya, Denzel Curry, Space Ghost Perk, the whole Rated Clan movement at that time here in the scene. Like they was already kind of like taking off. But me, I was more so in the streets, you know, at that time. Like them boys used to call me when they had pressure to come and like step out for them. And I just always knew that I didn't want to make rap music because I just felt like a lot of dudes who I had around me and I seen around me making that kind of music wasn't really living that life, and I just didn't feel right. And I was just like, if you really live that kind of life, you wouldn't really want to, like again, like me, I guess I'm Mr. Morals to an extent. Like I didn't want to like talk about that shit and like influence it, you know, when it wasn't something that was a positive light in my own life. You feel me? Like I went through a lot of that stuff, you know, like being shot at, being all these different things. It was just like, I ain't want to do it. And then I'm also a type of person that like to go against the grain. So I said, I'm not going to go that route. And I just started singing, you know, like singing to me was always, you know, cool and fun. And, you know, listening to Keith Sweat, Jodeci, them niggas was real gangsters back then, for real. Like, them boys was where I was from. But at the time of me making music, you know, coming up, me making the kind of music I was making wasn't identified as something that would be coming from where I came from because of what was happening in pop culture at that time. But like now, you know, it's different now, you know, like even the rap niggas singing now. So it's like, you know, so it evens the playing field. It's cool for me. When it comes to perception and how people view your art and what you decide to do, stemming away from where you come from, it's like, bro, it's your choice, because even in the midst of all of the niggas sliding and spinning on niggas and all of that kind of stuff, it's like, even when all of that is said and done, you gotta go mourn one of your homies. After those conversations of retaliation and revenge, the next conversation is always how we rebuild, like what it is we gotta do. But a lot of times, niggas don't really move on that. You know, like every time one of my dogs die, you feel me, or somebody pass away, we'll all link up in the backyard, talk. Shit'll get done. But the shit like, yo, we need to go start, let's go open up a smoke shop, my nigga. Like, let's patch up and let's go do this. Let's go patch up and do this. And those be great conversations, but being that, you know, being that, you know, like with the emotions and with everything that happens and goes on, and every day you gotta wake up to the reality that you live in, those positive things that you can transcend in, you don't really engage in it. You know, like, because life still keep happening, and life keep happening in life that we know it as to be, which is, you know, violent and controlled. You know, so why would I want to, me personally, why would I want to continue to fuel that? I mean, even though I know sometimes I find myself falling back into certain ways where I would entertain it, but I would never entertain it to the public. You get what I'm saying? Not because I'm scared of nothing, but it's like, ain't nobody business is what I got going on, you know? And I mean, at the end of the day, my core and my root and my heart isn't like that. I don't want to be that way, you know? But, you know, still being in certain environments kind of push you into, you know, moving a certain way, you know, PTSD and things like that. I mean, whenever I've done had situations and incidents where a person would be like they'll try to address me as my old self and how they knew me. You feel me? Even to the extent of saying that I've changed. That's good. That's good. You say I changed? Yeah. Thank you. That's a compliment. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a compliment. Yeah, I changed. Thank you. I don't ever get upset about it. I don't feel like I have something to prove. You feel me? What I got to prove, I already proved it. I got money. You know what I mean? Like, I got a son. I got a family. You know, I got a business. I got my own gallery, the only black-owned gallery in Wynwood. You know what I mean? So I changed. Yeah, I did. And I created opportunities. A lot of niggas who came up with me, who got it more than me, ain't even do half of that. You know what I mean? Like, what did they got to show? Or what it is that they contribute to the hood or the neighborhoods, or where they came from, where they took their stories from. You know, and I'm still here. So you can say I changed as much as you want to, you know, say, because you hate, you know, you wish you was in that position, but this shit wasn't given. You know, I had to work for it, and I'm still working for it, and I still haven't made it even to that place, bro. Like, I can't save my entire family, but I can make sure my immediate is okay, at least decent. You know what I mean? So this shit's still a working process, but I mean, thank you if you feel like I've changed, because I know it ain't nothing negative. Not one nigga can say anything bad about 12. One of my biggest motivations, my only motivation, to be honest with you, is my son. Like, my son is my only motivation. If it wasn't for my son, I don't really want to say that I'm motivated because of anything. Because every day I wake up and I'm lacking motivation. I feel defeated every single day I wake up. But I never fold, because I know I can't. I can't give up on myself. I can't give up on life. I can't give up on my dreams. You know, and I mean, that's really it. I guess that is my motivation. It's just like not wanting to be a failure, not wanting to be a bum. You know, like not being able to provide for myself. Another motivation, I guess, is making sure that I wake up every day. I don't have to ask nobody to borrow something. You know, like, my motivation is just me being a man, period. Like, and making sure that I can stand on my own too. Because that is, to me, what being a man is, you know. And I value my morals, you know, growing up in the church. You know, like, I stand on that. About 5 miles away from here, right here where we at right now, Valor, in Wynwood. My church was in Overtown. Wynwood was considered Overtown at a point in time. And, I mean, growing up in church is just like, I don't want to say it to, you know, like saying it to that extent, but it's like sports. You feel me? Without the athletic part, it's structure. What it provides structure. It provides morals. You can either let it consume you and become you, or you can abide by what the laws are within the church and apply it outside of it in your world, where it is that you feel that you need to be as a person and not as, you know, one whole or a body of that church. You can create your own church, and the rules of those, the rules of what they stand by on the church is really just stand on what you believe in, what, you know, what the provision of what they, I guess, educating you with. You know, like, so growing up in the church, it didn't really affect me and make me feel like I was going against the church when I started creating music. You know, I felt like it made me a great person. You know, it instilled in me not fucking people over. You know, like, good morals, you know, good values, good karma. You know, so growing up in the church, being in the choir in church, I mean, it made me who I am now. It made 12, and it helped mold the sound. My music is very soulful, and it comes from that. And I only plan on becoming better. So what led me to actually like taking it really serious in 2016 is when I had that, you know, like my first somewhat of like a breakthrough record. You know, I had this record Stardust, and at the time, Coach K reached out to me. You know, Coach K from QC, he reached out to me, and he so happened to see a tribute that I did for this artist named Bizzle, who passed away back in maybe like 2001 or something like that. I might be wrong, but he reached out to me. Me and Denzel was on our way to the park to go work out, and he called me when I was at the park. We got on the phone. We spoke for like 2 hours. Our birthday is like 2 days apart, so we were just on the phone, just chopping it up. And then we set up a meeting. I drove up to Orlando, met up with him. Me and my homie Gretzky from the New Miami, and we linked up, man. He plugged me with a lot of different things, and that kind of put a big battery in my back to really say, yo, I gotta stick with it, because like I said again, like you have your days when you down, you feel me, when you lack motivation. And even before then, I was cutting a lot of records, you know, like I had a couple of EPs and different things that I throw out on SoundCloud. I was working with Zach Fogarty and John Falco. There was also a part of the band that I was playing with at the time too. But I say in that moment of 2016, in the midst of us preparing to release my first LP, EP, type vibe, mixtape, whatever you want to call it, Friends, and getting that call from Coach, that shit did a lot. That shit motivated me a whole lot. Like, that shit motivated me a lot. So the project Friends, it was just me and my friends just being creative. You know, like Friends stood for nothing good lasts forever. So like even in the title of Friends, the END in Friends was in it was within like these brackets, you know. And for me it was like when I was making, I was like, yo, if this is our last days on earth, what's the type of music I would want to be listening to? And that's what that entire thing was kind of like built around, of what it was we was feeling at that time. A state of euphoricness, you know, I guess, with a lot of mushrooms, and we just cooked up that shit. Like, it was just something for fun. It was just for SoundCloud. And then Stardust, and like I said, like Stardust was the standout record on it that ended up taking off, and I moved it from SoundCloud over to the DSPs. But you know, like even still to this day, I never considered it as my first actual project, because it wasn't something that I created on my own. You know, like it was a group effort, and it was to be pushed out as a group project. You know, me and my two producers at that time. So it wasn't until my most recent project that I would like to, you know, encapsulate or pen as my first actual project, which is Sugar Hill Express. You know, like Thank the Gang, Loyal, like those records and those things are very, very. I mean, everything I do is personal, but those are really, really personal records. You feel me? That I guess those records are within the time where I got really comfortable with who I am, not as a creator, who I am just as a person that grew up in Carol City. Like, that's what that project is. Well, creating that project, bro, I ain't gonna lie, man. Making that project, we spent a lot of money on bottles, a lot of Patron, like a whole lot of Patron, and it was me, Fanatic and Zach. And Mickey the Grand. Who else? I had on there. Reed Waters. I cooked with him. He's a DJ from out here in Miami who worked with Bashment. Who else? Those are the main producers that's on that project. But I spent about a month in LA and I made that project, and it came out 2 years later. You know, I wrote that project in 2019. And I planned to release it in 2018. I started recording that project. Planned on releasing it in 2020, and then the pandemic happened. So I ended up just pushing it back to the following year. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that project, I just told myself I wanted to be personal. So I seen this documentary with Nina Simone, and she said it's an artist's duty to reflect. And at that time, I was working with Ben Billions and Infamous. And Infamous plugged me with Ben, but it was mainly Infamous I was working with. He'll put me in the studio with Ben Billions too. And we made a bunch of records, like I want to say me and Infamous made about 15, 20 records. And there was great records. And mind you, like these some big producers, like these niggas was producing majority of everything that's on the radio, from Rihanna to everybody. And I seen this documentary by Nina Simone, and she said that, and at the time my biggest issue was, how do I create something that is some real shit, but that can also get replay value without it having to be like a poppy ass record? Because the thing is, pop records don't exist. The machine exists. And I look at artists like SZA at that time, like artists like SZA, artists like Kendrick, even J. Cole, that, you know, like we would hear their music on the radios, on all of the big radio stations, still in the midst of them creating something that actually had real, true essence. And then I started questioning myself, records that I loved and why I loved them. And I realized it was the easiest way to be relatable was by being honest. Like Nina Simone say, like, yo, as an artist, do to reflect. Like, it don't make no sense if you love your mother, or you have a son, you don't have a record about your mama. A lot of people don't do that because they feel it might be corny, or because their pen not that strong to be able to create something that can still be catchy and still be progressive within the subjects and the substance. It's easier to just talk about the hype shit. You know, it's easier to just talk about the vices. You feel me? You know, it take real skill and time, you know, creating those sensitive records or those touchy topics, like those older records from back in the 70s and 80s, and even today, you know, like records like Kendrick them to still create, and it still be catchy, it still has the stickiness and essence, you know. But how you do that is just by being honest and not giving up on your pen. Like if it's not hitting, it's not hitting. Just stick with it. You feel me? Like keep going. You know, creating new habits with completing records and not shelving every single record you start because you don't like how it's turning out after the first 2 hours. You gotta spend 6-8 hours on that record. It's okay. Don't shelve it. Create new habits. Break through it. You feel me? Like even if you don't like it at the end, at least say that I finished it. So you can create a habit of finishing things. Because we create habits of not finishing things because we don't like it, and then that then spills over into other elements in our life. So when I was in LA making that project, making Sugar Hill Express with Fanatic and Zach, that was one thing with them. Like we would not shelve nothing. It's like, yo, we don't like how it is. All right, let's switch the key. Yeah, let's pitch it up. Let's move it over just to see if this record might be a better record in a different key or in a different home. It don't mean that it's not good. You know, it might just be better in, you know, C sharp. You know what I mean? It might be better in this key. Ah, damn, that's fire. All right, slow down the BPM. You know what I mean? Like, don't be married to everything that you create because you created it. Like, you know, it's art. It's an experiment. You know. Again, like I said, like recreating habits. Trying to get back in my groove of, not trying, I'm in my groove. Just keeping myself in this place of consistency of creating and even dropping more music now. So I told myself this year, I want to drop a record every 3 weeks starting February, you know. And that's what I'm on right now, is consistency, because creating quality music and music that my core gonna move to, that's not the hard part anymore. I figured out my sound. I figured out where I want to be at with my sound. I'm not afraid of evolution and changing and evolving. I thrive on it. I'm actually addicted to evolution. So it's like, I just know anything that come out of me is going to be good and great. But now I have to, you know, try to coexist in this new world, like with social media, in a sense of how fast it is, but not trying to keep up with it, but just finding a nice sweet spot for my own self to release music and feed my core with the intentions of expanding my church, my congregation. And I have to be a little bit more, you know, active with the music side, because I'm active in the community. In every community, I go to New York, we're gonna turn that shit up. Like, you know, we go to Toronto, we bring them out. So it's not that we got, you know, it's just really about consistency now. We living in two realms, so it's about consistency. You know, I ain't gonna say I learned my lesson, because I didn't fail in any element, but it was a lesson learned, you know, which is I need to you gotta stay out of your head, you know, as far as where it's possible of getting so consumed in your head with the way that you release things and how you release things. You should definitely be intentional. But when you don't have a team and you don't have these different things, you feel me, you need to be consistent, because you don't pick your team pick you. You know, just like sports, the coach don't pick his players. They can try and pick a player, the players they gotta say yeah. But when you growing up and you playing Optimus Sports, you pick the team that you want to go play for. It's the same thing. Those are the players you want, is the ones who want to be on your side. And to attract those people, you have to be consistent, because I want to know that you're not giving up tomorrow, you know, if I'm finna play for you. So you got to be consistent, you know, and misconception is a big thing. I feel like, for me, balancing consistency and quality, it's like when you go to the gym. You feel me? You start off with 80 pounds on that weight. Now you pushing that 80 pounds, you training. Then you jump up to 135 and 165 and 220. Oh yeah, you up there now. You pushing 240, you up there, you pushing that. That's quality. You quality meat, boy. You feel me? And that's consistent now. Now it's consistent because now you're gonna deliver that each time. So how you balance it is through practice. And because you become quality. You can become quality. Once you become quality, every time you spit out something, it's gonna be quality. You feel me? As long as you still you play like how you play, how you train. That's how you balance consistency and quality. I mean, for me, my exercises for my mental health, I like to go to the gym, you know, spend time with my son. I like to bathe myself in my son. Like I drop him to school in the morning. Go to work, you feel me, exercise, pick him back up. We don't even go straight home, we go straight to the park every day. You know, then I go to the studio, he gonna come with me. Probably let him go kick it with his moms and shit once she's off from work or whatever, you know, doing her thing. But for the most part, I try to exercise bathing myself and the people that love me, you know, and not being so pushy, you know, from like, a lot of times, like, I find myself kind of like, you know, like pulling away from people who really trying to show me some affection and love, because that shit be kind of weird. Like, you know, like growing up, that's not something that you really see. So like right now as an adult and as a grown man, I'm trying to exercise like allowing people to even love you back, because I feel like it's my job to do for you, but not for you to do for me. You don't need to do shit for me. I don't need you to do nothing. Like, you good. I'm serious. You good. But like, that's not good for your mental health, because then you start blaming, you know, the absences of people caring for you, when in all reality you keep shutting the door on them. So allow people to, you know, care about you. You know, it's okay. Like, every day I wake up and I plan my day out to try to figure out at what point will I be able to sit down and make some music. Every day. Every plan that I make is how can I line up my day and my structure to get some paper, to make sure my son good, picking him up just so that I can land in that place of being in the studio. You know, because that's not every day. And my main thing when it comes to life entirely is contrast. Being able to contrast the music. So when the music sounds bright and pretty, the pen gonna be dirty. You know what I mean? For me, like, it has to have a balance and a contrast. If the record sounds very dark, then that song will be very loving, but it's never gonna be sad. Like, it's just about like contrast. And I look at it like paintings, you know, I look at it like light. You know, so it has to have a contrast. So I mean, I listen to everything. Nothing really influenced the music other than like life, things that I go through in life. You know, if it's in a relationship with someone, or even a battle of like just reminding yourself to love on yourself. You know, because that's another thing. Like, self-care is big. You feel me? Like, reminding yourself that you are of value. You know, because we live in a very depressing time where it seems like it's not, because everybody looking for a place to be able to numb those emotions. So if it's like through going out partying, drinking, smoking, so yeah, it looked lit, it looked fun, but nigga, motherfuckers depressed, man. So some advice that I would want to give to, I guess some advice I would have gave to my younger self, or even, you know, like giving to somebody that's out there trying to find themselves, or trying to discover the things that it is that they want to get into. Is, try to be as much, try to have much self-awareness. Don't be ignorant. Don't lie to yourself when you've outgrown certain people and certain things. Don't try to hold on to certain things and certain people. You feel me? Like, don't betray your new self being loyal to your old self. That's my main thing. Because a lot of times we find ourselves being loyal to our old self, being loyal to old things, being loyal to prior situations, and we find ourselves then getting into this place of being depressed or feeling like you're not growing. But in all reality, is because you're not being loyal to you. You're not being loyal to who you are today. And like I said, earlier, you feel me? Like, when it comes to goals, like you could have had a set of goals for yourself and you achieved them a long time ago and you ain't even realize that you achieved them, So now with these new set of goals, it might require you to go get that job so you can get some paycheck stubs to be able to buy a house. Your mind wasn't on that when you was 18, by the time you was 23. So it's like, it's not a failure, it's that you're on a whole new path now. So, be self-aware of what it is that you want and what it is that you're into, because we grow every day even when we don't want to, and our interests change, So I always like to tell my nephews and my little homies that, because that's really important, because that plays a big part in our mental health, is when we lose ourselves, and not being loyal or being loyal to your old selves is the biggest downfall of losing yourself. So just be self-aware, always be self-aware. Don't be afraid of letting people love on you. You feel me? And yeah, I ain't gonna sit here and say keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing, cause that shit ain't. No, you need to be self-aware. Like, if what you're doing ain't working, you need to sit down and reevaluate like what God calling you to do. You feel me? Like, and keep that shit 1,000 with yourself and stop being disloyal to yourself. What's next for 12ing right now is just creating more music. Pushing for you guys to see me on a big screen one day. You feel me? And just keep writing, man. Just for me, it's just all about creating and writing music. Keeping these film placements coming in when it comes to this music shit and scoring for these films, and building up the community and the scene in Miami, and just giving homes to other creators with my spaces, with the Halo House, with Halo Blue, with Velvet Velour as being a bird nest, or being a community nest for those creators, and Halo Blue and Halo just being the movement itself, and that's all it is with me, It's just focusing on the people, because at the end of the day, if all of the machines shut down, all we gonna have is each other. So it's important for us to connect and be social and socialize and stop this fake social shit on social media. Be for real, let's just be real with each other. Like, my dreams, I feel like I'm doing them. I don't have, for me right now, like if a person asks me, what do I see myself manifesting myself being, and what my dreams and what's my goals, I feel like I'm doing them. I can't even tell you what it is, because I'm doing it. Like, money comes with it. You feel me? Like, so don't get caught up in that. Like, I'm doing it. Like, owning my own shit. Like, having it pay for itself, even if it's through a non-profit or a grant or whatever. You feel me? Like, that's the focus. That's the focus. Those are the goals. Seeing my son grow, and me growing old. That's another one. I ain't think I was. I put this shit on my life, man. I ain't think I was gonna see 23. You feel me? I ain't think I was gonna see 23 at all. And then I made it to 23. And then I told myself, I ain't gonna see 26. I always told myself that. I ain't finna see 26. And then I made it, and I keep making it. So I guess my goal now is just to see 50, 40, and all of those things is close, but it's like, to keep it real with you, where I come from is like that, and where I'm at still, you feel me, like me still being present within the community and not projecting that kind of energy. At the end of the day, I know people be having their energy, but I'm still here I'm still here with my folks, I'll be in and out the city, but I'll be here for the most part. So I just want to be able to see my son turn 20, 25, 40, and then have grandkids too. So right now we're in Velvet Velour. It's the home for Halo Blue, which stands for Heaven Angels Living on Earth. It's the home for 50 Carats, Corella. All of the photographers all throughout the city. We got all the dopest photographers and painters, from Junkyard, Art Witch, Spaz, Apex. Man, over here, if you looking like if niggas looking for creatives and looking for people to link up and work with, if it's down to producers to art designers, whatever, they here. If you ain't here, you ain't nowhere. Like if you ain't coming over here, you ain't nowhere. Like so, it's just like that. Like this is our house. This is literally just a home for any creative. You ain't gotta be gang to be able to come inside of here. You just gotta be consistent to come over here. You're not gonna come in here and your dream is just to meet Denzel Curry or just to meet 12 or just to meet a nigga and then you disappear. Nah, you need to come over here and be consistent. We don't play that halfway shit. Like we trying to build shit over here. And I invest in my time and my energy into actually creating this space, not for people to just flow through. So that's what this place is all about. It's about having a creative hub for people to be consistent, work with each other and discover, inside the city and outside the city. Stay consistent, be honest, and you feel me, like, and trust the process. The process is slow, but life is long. As long as you're making decisions, life can be long. Life ain't long. Life is short when you're not moving at all. When you're not making no decisions, when you're not making no choices for yourself, when you got a 9-to-5, choosing what you do, when you got, that cell holding you back. Life go by fast when you locked up. Life go by fast when you locked in. But as long as you can wake up every day and you got a choice to say, today I'm finna do this. Life is long. Like, we all know people, my nigga, who done spent 2-3 years in New York and then they lived in Chicago for 5 years and then they lived in Miami for 1 year. You be like, damn, you did all that in this one life? Because you got choices. Life is long. It's short for a person who's been in one spot, just standing there. So make choices, you feel me? Life is long. We can do this, just keep up, that's it.